Hi and welcome to this video blog with me, Wayne, from swimmingcyclingrunning.com. Last week I promised you a critique of the front crawl stroke for swimming triathlon, and I've decided that we should really do that in the same way as the ASA teach their coaches to analyse stroke, and that's using the BLABT method, BLABT, which stands for body position, legs, arms, breathing, timing. Because we're going to take it in that order, and because we want to look at these things in quite detail, it's going to take us more than 1 week to cover the front crawl stroke, but hopefully you won't mind, as we're now going to head over to the computer and take you through specific examples on how things should and shouldn't be done.
Alright, here we are, and we're just about to watch Liz swimming front crawl in a normal swimming session. Now you can see that Liz has her legs drooping down behind her, not on the surface of the water. So the body position is actually angled from there. You can see right down the spine, right through the legs, and that's going down towards the bottom of the pool. That means her legs are outside her body width. You can see it there. And that's creating drag as the water hits, and we'll see her swim on from there. As Liz gets tired, the legs droop actually more and more down in the water. You can see here, again, she's drooping down with her spine. The spine should be along the surface of the water. So good body position would ensure that you don't get this drag on the legs as they droop down. We'll just finish this off. As I say, as she gets more tired as she goes down the length, her legs are actually drooping more and more. Here we go. And again, you can see she's got a slight curve, and the body position is well below the water. So we don't want a position whereby your body is actually dragging through the water. What we want is a position where you can go smoothly through the water. Okay, so here we're looking at another swimmer. It's Dermot. I'm going to try and stop it in a particular place. Oh, there we go. I managed to do it exactly right. Now Dermot, you'll see here, has shoved his head out of the water. He's pushing his hand down. You see all these bubbles over his arm. He's pushing his hand down level with his elbow to try and raise that head out the water. He doesn't think he is, but that's exactly what he's doing. However, his body is fairly straight in the water. That happens for two reasons. He's curving his back to make his body straight, but it has an effect on the back end of his stroke where his legs actually droop from the hip. So he's cocking his hip and his legs will come down here. If we play that on a little bit. There we go. You can see his legs, not so much there. His legs are drooping down from there, even though his bum is coming up near the surface. And you can see this curvature in his back. We'll just play this on. In contrast to that, let's watch Dave and Charlie. Dave and Charlie are slightly faster swimmers. You can see the back of each of the swimmer is virtually on the surface of the water. If I stop it there. Yeah, a slight curve in Dave's back, but his bum is still touching the surface. And exactly the same with Charlie here. She's still touching the surface. In fact, she's broaching the surface with her bum there. Her legs are very much in line with the surface of the water. So the surface is slightly odd there. It's going downwards. But if you took a line going downwards, you'd actually see that they were pretty much level with the surface of the water. Let's just run that on. And they are throughout the length. How do they get that? They start pushing their chest into the water, which makes them lift their hips up. So you push the chest from about here, and Dave from about here, around about where the nipples would be, effectively, or just above there, in fact. You can push just below the throat. If you push that area into the water, it naturally lifts the hips right up to the surface, which is exactly where you want it to be. Okay, here we're going to show you a drill that you can do to try and start correcting that body position. Here you see Sandra on her side with everything pointing to one side of the pool, and that means her shoulders, her chest, her hips, her waist and her thighs are all pointing in the same direction. And the aim with this drill is to rotate your body absolutely around that spine, with every single thing rotating at the same time, so it keeps in alignment. You're going to kick and then change sides about every 8 kicks. The breath is going to happen not at the same time as you change from side to side. That's very important, so you divorce the movement of the head from the movement of the body. Let's see how she gets on. Right, well you can see that Sandra's had to lift her head out the water to breathe, and as she's done so, everything's slipped down. Yeah, so one thing happens at one end, everything has a reaction at the other end. And because we're trying to push down about there, yeah, and I think she's pushing too high, everything pivots. So a small movement here actually ends up in a large movement at the back end of the stroke. You can see here she's getting towards a nice position, arm out the water, the hip could be higher, but she's starting to bury her head, which makes it very difficult to breathe. Again, lifted the head out the water, everything sinks at the back end. See, as she holds her breath, her legs slowly but surely rise to the surface, but with this continual lifting of the head out the water, we get a sort of a rebound effect where the legs drop, the legs go up, the legs drop, the legs go up. And you get a sort of seesaw around sort of this point here, which is slightly too high. As I say, she should push her chest from about that area into the water, put her head so she's looking forward and down so that she can rotate the head and breathe, and should be a lot better in the water in terms of positioning. Again, into a lovely position there, and as the head lifts, it gets compromised. Okay, we're going to look at this drill performed once again, this time by two swimmers, Karen and Mark. And you'll notice a difference between the swimmers. You can see Karen coming here on the near side. She's got her head in a beautiful position, looking forward and down. The body's slightly pointing downwards, but it's completely straight. She does breathe as she turns, which we don't really want, but you can see no movement in the body downwards from that position. So here, her hips virtually out the water, and she's moving in a good position. Now behind her we've got Mark, and you can see he's already starting to twist his body out of shape when he breathes. So now he's heading towards a reasonably good position when his head's in the water, and then suddenly he wants to breathe, and of course everything droops down. So you've got to push into the water, but I think Mark again is pushing from about here, whereas really he wants to lower that and push round about where the nipple line is, and keep his body absolutely straight. We'll see that again through to the end. Okay, let's take a look at a reasonably accomplished swimmer. This swimmer, based on this evidence of what we did, has actually changed his stroke. He's a 1500 metre and 10,000 metre open water swimmer. You can see he has a very developed catch, and everything here is absolutely on the surface of the water. As he rotates, he does, though, push down in the water and breathe slightly early, which is what we changed. Based on that change, he'd gone from 1732 to 1658 as a PB, which is a 30-second PB in just about 3 months. So it's nothing to do with his strength, it's to do with this position in his arm. But his body is always in a good position in the water, and it's something you should attempt to do when you're swimming in a triathlon. We'll just take a look at that again because it's quite useful. Everyone has faults in their stroke, so the fact that he did is not surprising. But he's looking forward to having a really good open water season, and he's doing the Dorney Lake 10,000 metres next week, so that should be quite... Okay, so the drill that you can use to straighten your body and get it onto the surface is kicking on your side. Now, before we showed you kicking on your side and changing about every 8 strokes, but in this particular video we have an individual swimmer who's just starting to learn this. So they're kicking on their side, keeping on their side the whole length, and just turning their head to breathe each time. This is the basis of all kicking on the side. So you want to do it initially, changing by length, and then you can start changing every 8 kicks. So you progress from swimming length by length on your sides to changing sides every 8 kicks. Slightly different. You've got to keep your head in the neutral position as you change sides. You want to divorce your head movement from your body movement, but try and make sure your body rotates around the spine with everything moving as one. Don't use your hands to turn as Peter did there, just use your core to instigate and turn your hips, your shoulders and your chest all as one. And remember to push your chest in the water from just above the nipple area, and that should balance you out.
Okay, so there you have the first in our series on front crawl stroke for triathlons. The important thing, stay balanced in the water so you can lift your hips right up to the surface and make sure your legs follow the same way. How do you do that? You do that by pressing your chest into the water and mostly swimming on your side. We've given you a couple of drills, kicking changing by length on your side and kicking changing every 8 strokes to actually practice that and try and ensure you do. When you're doing it, try and make sure your hand stays on the side of your body and the whole arm is actually out the water throughout your drill. Okay? Do that and you're well on your way to being balanced in the water. Hopefully you've enjoyed this blog. We'll continue explaining the front crawl stroke for triathletes next week. Hopefully you've enjoyed this one and we'll see you then. Keep well.